Trip in a wacky aeroplane.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 18th of April, 2021. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Extremely wacky.
And Robert Kemp.
I don't know if wacky's got a particularly positive connotation these days.
I would have said it's sort of neutral.
I don't know, I think of wacky as
tacky.
Like... yeah, I think of it as kind of that 90s... over the top.
Not as bad as zany, though, is it? It's not zany.
No, it's 80s over the top.
But it's not whack, though. If it's whack, that's bad, right?
But then if you're wacky, are you partially whack?
Are you whack if you're wacky?
You're wackish.
You're definitely wackish. Is that like water, like brackish water? It's like, oh, this is really wackish.
That water is brack.
It's well brack.
What is brackish?
It's just like salty, I think. Isn't that what brackish means?
Yeah, it's like with the
Briny.
gunk situation. You've got it's in between brine and like pure. You've got brackish.
Pure, yeah, it's for like estuaries or whatever that aren't like fully seawater, right? I imagine
because there's a part of Felixstowe called Brackenbury, and I wonder if that's like.
Well, bracken is like a bush as well. It's
Yeah.
like a type
I suppose
of
it could
plant.
be that. Yeah.
it's like undergrowth, isn't it?
So it's like Bracken Town, as opposed to
But-
like not slightly salty water town.
I think bracken is like kind of a coastal thing though, so it might be both.
Is it bracken?
You're not-
you don't get
You're
bracken.
not thinking
in
of Brecon.
No, I think it's
bracken, as in Brecon
well,
Beacons.
maybe not.
Hmm.
I think bracken is like it's not a very specific. Like it's not a specific plant. It's like
No.
a generic undergrowthy kind of term, except for like a very specific kind of undergrowth.
You're a generic undergrowthy term. Yeah, that one didn't land.
For woodland. Woodland. There's a wood in Highgate, because I'm in London, so there's not much wood around, but there's Highgate wood. I went up there, and it's like, yeah, it's a wood, but like it's quite clear of undergrowth. It doesn't have much in the way of undergrowth. It's it's got trees and it's all sort of dirt under there, but it's not like there's not much bracken going on in Highgate wood.
Is it like maintained dirt? Is the dirt an intentional aesthetic?
Well,
no, it's not like landscaped. It's like it is a wood.
Yeah, but do they go in
not a
there and clear it out? Is it like
Yeah,
some kind of
probably.
safety thing where it's just like we can't have bushes that people can hide in?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
We
Probably
can't
get some
hide
dogs.
bodies in here.
Yeah,
Bet people wouldn't put it past people. Although Highgate's quite posh, it would have to be some sort of Agatha Christie murder type.
well, it doesn't matter what the murder is; it's just where the body ends.
Yeah, that's
It's not a very posh murder if you're just killing someone in the woods.
Yeah, no, but
That's where the body still ends up.
But then
Yeah.
a posh murder probably is more likely to involve someone that would hide a body. Do you not think? Like,
what, rather
like
than
a
just
pot-
leave them in the street? Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's like the our new crime drama series, Posh Murders.
Posh Highgate murder.
That's most crime drama series.
Yeah.
In fairness, yeah. It's very rarely. Well, it's because it's not interesting if it's just like this guy was stabbed by a gang. The end.
It's like Inspector Morse, like was in Oxford. How many bloody murders were there in Oxford? And then Midsummer, which was a small village, fictional village outside Oxford, right? How many
Is it a
murders?
village or was it like a small like countylet? Or
I don't know. I didn't actually watch Midsummer Murders. I watched Inspector Morse a bit back in the day with his Jaguar and his pints.
I'm more of a Lewis man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That just looked a bit depressing though, because I don't know. Inspector Morse was somewhat upbeat, despite all the grisly murders.
Which I suppose to some degree. I suppose by the time Lewis actually aired, Lewis himself as a character is like, I'm old.
I am now
Well,
old.
He's not just old, he's like hella, cynically run down by the whole all these
Right.
murders constantly happening.
And he can't have pints with Morse anymore.
And his partner is dead.
Yeah.
They do still talk about. I think most episodes end with some conversation about pints or pies, though.
Oh right, okay. Well, it's a spin-off. You've got to keep the connection to the original themes.
Because I suppose Lewis himself is posh-ish, right? Because he likes a pint in the pie, and he's got that kind of attitude. But then, the way everyone lives in that show is not very lowbrow.
Yeah, he's definitely not. He's definitely middle class. Let's put it that way. It's not gangland murders and stuff. You definitely can make good TV out of that. I mean, look at The Wire. It's amazing. It's probably the best TV show ever.
Yeah, few and far between, though, aren't they? Sort of just.
Yeah, I haven't tried. There's a London one set in Hackney called Top Boy, which I've heard mixed things about. Well, I haven't tried it, but it's not going to be The Wire, is it? So I'm a bit reticent.
But then again, it could end up being like Lock, Stock, the series or something.
Yeah. They did make one, didn't they? That was bad, wasn't it?
Oh God, did they? I
think they did, and it was no. I think it's a real thing, Lock, Stock, the series, and I think it's bad and nothing to do with Guy Ritchie. Yeah.
Oh no.
I might be making that up, but I think that is true.
I mean, on paper, it's not the worst idea, but
okay, here comes the Google. It's called Lock, Stock.
And they ignored the battles.
With an ellipsis, yeah.
With an ellipsis, wow.
Yeah, with an ellipsis. Oh, yeah.
And is every episode the and part? So it's like Lock, Stock, and 2.
Oh, there's only 7 episodes of it.
No, you have to call it Lock, Stock, and 3 dots.
Oh, every episode has a title, and that starts
it's
with
got
an
the
ellipsis.
end in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I thought that's what where they'd go with that. Lock, Stock, and 5 smoking blunts.
One of them is Lock, Stock, and spaghetti sauce. What the hell? That's episode 4.
Lock, Stock, and a posh murder in the park.
Lock, Stock, and Bracken.
Lock, Stock, and Bracken.
Lock, Stock, and Bracken are next to the Bracken water. Brackwater?
It was Ginger Productions. Chris Evans. Do you remember that? TGI Friday? Or TG...
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not Captain America, Chris Evans.
TFI Friday, that's right. Get it right.
He of breakfast radio fame.
Indeed. He of, going out with Billy Piper and buying her a Ferrari full of roses and then going completely off the rails, not coming back to his radio show because he was drinking in the pub all morning.
Slander.
But then he was like Radio 2 for years, wasn't he? I think he rehabilitated himself, didn't he?
Until he's on is he still on Virgin?
I think he went and formed
like
some new. Didn't he form some new radio that I didn't even listen to him on radio?
What is that? Is that Spotify?
A new radio station.
New radio. Apple One or whatever it was called.
Oh, it is Virgin Radio.
What was Apple's radio station? Where they nicked Zane Lowe?
Beats One, wasn't it?
Beats One was that?
Beats.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on with Beats. I have no Apple Music interest particularly. Spotify suits me fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Beats.
I'm sure Apple Music probably has all the exact same stuff as Spotify and works just as well. But I don't know. Spotify's got good curated playlists and good machine learning to figure out what you like and stuff like that.
Yeah, mostly good.
Mostly.
Although I think they need new blood in their Thursday throwbacks. Always the same stuff.
Yeah, well, that's one thing about the curated playlists is they don't rotate very often, so you do hear the same stuff.
I'm just like, oh, great! It's another playlist of "Come On Eileen" somewhere in there.
Oh,
They were like doing like pub. I think this week's was like pub classics, and it's like because the pubs were opening, I guess.
Okay.
And it's like, well, that means this is going to be mostly garbage, right? And it's like, yep, come on, Eileen's in there.
Hot garbage. I mean, come on, Eileen has its place. And that place is the 80s.
That place is no more than once a year for sure.
Yes, about once a year is about right.
That place is in a discarded dungarees, like just in there. Just, like,
tell you the song
on the side of the road. There's just like, come on, Eileen, like leaning out of it.
The song that is totally fine, but I don't understand why it's constantly played, and everyone seems to like except me. Is Mr. Blue Sky?
Oh, I like this.
I know, yeah, I know, but like that's overplayed.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not.
Other than that one time it was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
That's fine. But it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever and the happiest song ever or whatever. It's like, I've had enough Electric Light Orchestra. Thank you very much. Could do without it for a bit.
I mean, that's the only Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah.
I can't even say it. Electric Light Orchestra I get.
What happened to the guy from the Electric Light Orchestra? Didn't he crash his car into a hay bale or something?
Hardcore.
ELO hay bale. That's like, oh no, he died
in the hay bale.
ELO's Mike Edwards killed by hay bale in freak crash.
Well, I feel slightly worse about making a joke about it now.
Sorry, Mike Edwards. It wasn't a very blue sky when the hay bale fell on you.
Well, quite yellow.
Presumably it might have been. We've been in summer.
That's harsh. Anywho,
how do you get your car close enough to a hay bale?
Police believe 600-kilogram bale fell from a tractor on nearby farmland before rolling onto the road.
Wow, that's pretty unlucky.
I mean, they're round, but yeah, that's pretty unlucky.
So it wasn't even, like, I was half expecting him to have been like tailgating a tractor, and the tractor just accidentally dumped some load. But no, the fact that the tractor wasn't even on the road.
No, it just rolled onto the road while he was driving down it.
Wow, that's pretty bad. Shame.
So the pubs are open.
The pubs are open. Have you been to the pub?
No, because of the booking situation. But it is funny walking past them because they're all packed outside, and of course, no one's inside.
Wait, booking situation? You've got to book.
Oh yeah, you've got to book ahead. Yeah, because you've got to sit down. That's the rules or whatever. You can't just go up to the bar. But I have a booking for Saturday.
I guess that much. But I thought they might have like I don't know. A bit of me thought like you'd be allowed to stand up in a beer garden if they had enough space, and that like people would just walk around being like, "Your order."
Well, in practice they do. In practice they do, but in the law is that you have to be seated for the time being.
Do they successfully greet you as well?
It depends on the pub.
Okay. I suppose we don't know a pub called the Shooting Stars, do we?
There probably is one. There was one I used to go to in Southampton, wasn't it, called the Shooting Star on Portswood? Yeah. It might have changed name like after you left to that. Yeah. Do you remember the Shooting Star? It did like it did those pear ciders and stuff when it was quite new, a new thing.
No, I do not remember that.
It was just halfway down. Yeah. There were so many places on Portswood.
Went to the Cock and Womble yesterday.
Oh yeah.
It's my mate's, like, he's built a tiki bar in his back garden.
And he's called it the Cock and Womble.
The Cock and Womble, yeah.
His Uncle Bulgaria, can he remember the days when he wasn't behind the bed?
I don't know, let's ask the cock instead. Yeah. It was pretty much like being at the pub, because he's got one of those Philips Perfect Draft machines.
Oh. Philips? As in Like,
Philips, as in the light bulb company.
They make
Philips
draft.
Hue fame.
Oh, really? They make. Well, I've got some new Hue bulbs, but maybe I can get a Hue controlled beer machine.
I think that's the one downside. I don't think it's like smart home enabled.
That would be hilarious.
It's kind of like you don't really.
No,
of all the things that, like,
yeah, you definitely don't need that.
No, because this you just leave on and you pull a pint.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
If you can't, unless it can physically deliver beer to my place, wherever I am in the house, I don't. You
need one of those Boston Dynamics spot robots. I reckon that could probably pull a pint for you and then deliver it.
Yeah, the dog
take it upstairs. Yeah,
like a beer attachment on its back. But those are pretty good as it turns out. A lot of European high percentage beers available on them. It's not got a massive range of stuff you can get for it, but it's got some good ones. So that was quite nice. Proper beers, like.
I'm just watching these ducks flying, 3 ducks, and the lake is right below them. So they're not going anywhere. They're just flying round and round in a circle. This is like, I feel like flying around. I'm probably going to end up landing in the lake again.
I guess they've not been granted landing clearance by.
Yeah, by duck ATC. Yeah, they're just in a holding pattern. Yeah, hilarious. Well, down they go. They must have got clearance. So how are the pints pulled by the Philips machine?
Mighty fine. And they mysteriously refill themselves when I'm not looking.
That's the service you expect from the Cock and Womble.
Indeed. It's top quality establishment.
Yeah. I am looking forward to going to the pub.
I mean, I'm kind of not really. I don't care about a pub, really. I like draft beers, don't get me wrong, but like,
Oh, I love the pub. The London pub's quite different, I suppose.
More expensive.
Oh, yeah, fucking expensive, yeah. It's all part of it.
Yeah, I don't really miss that. That's fine. But like, it's the only time I actually really like use a pub is for Breakfast Club after a run. So
right,
like,
and then it's more for the food. Yeah.
Breakfast Club would be nice, but like, that doesn't specifically have to be a pub, just somewhere with breakfast.
That's true. Yeah.
We were reminiscing about about the breakfast sandwich at Ruby's and Felix, though. Oh, it's so good. It's massive.
The size of the Ruby's breakfast burrito sandwich thing.
Breakfast sandwich. It's one of those ones where it's got like a hash brown, but the hash brown's the size of the entire sandwich.
Bloody love hash browns. Like they're the hash browns are like not English, so they shouldn't really be part of a full English because they're American. But they're just so good. You can't not have the hash brown. I'd take that over a lot of the English constituents of the full English.
I mean, what would an English potato part of a full
I don't think
English
there is
be?
one in.
No.
Is
there
there?
not be skanky potato cubes or something?
Probably.
What's in an Irish breakfast? Potato, because they must have potato. Whiskey. A bit of Jameson's on the side.
That's what makes it an Irish coffee, isn't it?
Is black pudding just a frozen pint of Guinness?
I mean, for all I know, it could be Guinness related.
And white pudding's just the froth on top.
What is white pudding anyway?
Grosser?
Even grosser. Black pudding is nice as part of an English breakfast in moderation. I don't know what else you'd do with it.
Ugh. That's my professional opinion.
I do miss the greasy spoons proper ones in the London one. There was one on called the Shepherdess, but I think it's closed now on City Road due to pandemic. Sad times. It literally had like curtains painted on the windows. Quite weird.
Okay.
I don't know. And it had this hilarious clientele because it was on the edge of Hipsterville. It was half hipsters and half builders. It was cabbies. It was really weird.
Was there an exchange of ideas happening?
I know, probably.
This is
Probably where the hipsters got all their ideas. I mean, they don't have that many of their own.
That's true. They just they take it back for the youth.
I mean, it's 10 years. It's over 10 years since that song "Being a Dickhead's Cool," and it's exactly as relevant now as it was then. Almost, it's not really dated that much, which is scary. And also, it describes me as well because the first line is "Got on the train from Cambridgeshire."
Mm-hmm. Accurate. And that's the random section. That's the pre-show.
I guess.
Do we not want to extend this a bit more because we don't have any news at all?
There's very little news. Or we could talk about Tally, I suppose. I've been watching that last season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, I thought that, in my mind, that show's been cancelled for ages.
I mean, it's sort of... I mean, no.
No, but I thought like they were done with the Netflix Marvel shows and it's all like Disney Plus.
I mean, this was ABC.
Okay.
So this is like started years and years ago. This started around like before. No,
yeah, it led
Avengers.
Into Avengers 2, didn't it?
It was around then, and like some of the early tie-ins with the MCU were around Thor 2, I think.
That wasn't as bad.
Yeah, that one was bad. But that was the sort of time frame that it began, and that was when they were trying to tie things up. But then something happened, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the MCU no longer talked to each other anymore, it seems.
Yeah, the producers don't like each other, right?
So they drifted apart,
like the TV guy.
Yeah, in continuity. So they didn't really. They kind of don't have anything to do with each other. They S.H.I.E.L.D. will reference things periodically, but not in a meaningful way. Like, it doesn't affect their storylines at all. But hey, I'm pretty certain this is the last season. I think they've said it's the last season, that's why I'm pretty certain. But it's super obvious from what they're doing as well. It's like they've just gone, sod it. Like, let's just have fun with this and do the most bonkers stuff we can. So naturally, it's a time travel series.
Oh,
and
they're
basically doing WandaVision. And I think this aired before WandaVision did, so that's weird.
Right.
So it's like they've been in the 50s, and then they went to the 70s, and then they had a bit in the 80s. And it's...
Well, I mean, Endgame did that, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, not that much, but did the time heist.
But all the while, they're sort of referencing and changing their own timeline, like from the rest of the S.H.I.E.L.D. season. So here's an excuse to bring back old plot lines, and here's an excuse to bring back things we did at the beginning of the show, weirdly, and then mess with them. And we'll just make fun of the whole thing the whole time. It's like the whole thing is like it's kind of just stupid and funny, and it's great, actually. It's hugely entertaining as a result.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, as long as you don't need it to take it seriously. It's Marvel. Just be dumb.
It's just dumb fun.
And it works. Like, as Gnome said, it's like, yeah, the last few seasons it really was going off the rails and was a bit just like, it was crazy. They went to space. And they went to space somehow.
As you do. Moonraker style.
Yeah. And there was a little bit of time travel there, but not much. And yeah, so the bringing it back to the fun is good. Recommend. Won't make any sense if you haven't watched the rest of it though, but but I like it. I like it. And Gnome's happy because Sewing Bee's back.
What's that?
The Great British Sewing Bee.
No, sorry.
It's as bad as it sounds. It's like Bake Off,
spin-off.
but they make clothes.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's all right.
I didn't even watch
I get sucked into those shows. She made me pottery throwdown.
That's what they're designed to do, isn't it? Suck you in.
That's
cool,
though. It's all right. It's very camp.
Here's my random section. About...
Yep,
there's no segue out of pottery, unfortunately. Well, no, I guess there is, because we're going to talk in a vaguely tangential way about porcelain, I guess. Because it's toilets. Toilets.
Yes.
And also, one of my favourite things to complain about, shitty modern design.
Yeah.
Yay.
So the toilet downstairs had to have its insides replaced, like the mechanism, basically. Because it wasn't actually pulling the water any longer. Whatever the plunger or whatever, however that actually worked.
The cistern. Yeah.
Yeah, that bit had got all old and it just wasn't functioning well enough. So it's like, okay, we have to replace this. And it was an old ass, the old school system with a handle and everything.
Did it have a floaty thing inside, like a
yes,
ball?
It did indeed have a floater.
I mean, that's how they all work, right? They need a floaty thing to tell it when to stop.
Not necessarily in the same way in the modern version, though. It's not like a big arm in more.
It doesn't rotate sideways anymore, does it? It's like more of a vertical construction.
And it's also maybe like slightly more complicated in the modern versions than just having like a thing that covers over a hole, essentially.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, that all broke, so it was like we had to get a new one. And then there was a brief discussion about, can you even get old school style ones any longer, or do you have to have the modern version with the buttons and like the 2 flush system or whatever?
It must be possible to get a handle.
Well, the thing is, what we ended up getting was it's a modern style 2 flush mechanism, but it still connects to a handle like usual.
Right.
So we didn't have to replace. We didn't, there was no buttons to fuck around with. It still attaches to the same.
So how do you select which one you want?
Well, that's where shitty modern design comes in.
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt you just to preempt, see if I guess if this is right, because I'm sure in the 90s, someone's house I went to as a kid had a toilet that had a sticker on it that explicitly said you could short flush the button by just sort of tapping the handle. Or long press by either I forget, is it pump the whole way or hold it down?
We have indeed got a button, and that's where the shitty.
Oh, it's got a button as well.
No, I mean we've got a sticker, not a button. That's what I was meant to say. There's a sticker on it now to remind everyone, because as you may well be aware about those modern 2 flush systems, even before this point, there was shitty one design where no one agreed on the design of the buttons. So sometimes, the smaller button is the long flush for no apparent reason, even though that's completely the opposite.
Well, sometimes they're inset inside each other, so you have to press both.
Yeah,
the long flush.
You press the small one and the big one goes with it, and then it's oh, now I understand, right?
Yeah, it's when they're inset like that, you would assume that the small one on the inside would be the short flush, but it's not always because of bad design. But with this handle situation...
I think we lucked out there. I think we've got the small button for the small flush.
With the handle situation, it's basically the same thing, where in order to do the full flush, you just push the handle normally. In order to do the short flush, you hold the handle down.
What?
Wait, that's to do the short one?
That's bad. Yeah.
That's the wrong way round, surely.
It sure is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not modern design. That's just idiocy.
I mean, that is modern design, but it's just terrible. Why...
I'm sure that design existed before, and they got it the right way round.
Well, yeah, even with the buttons, they still sometimes get it the wrong way around. It just seems to be they just don't think about it in any way. It's just we're going to design this thing and not consider how it's actually used.
I think I'm reading this book, a classic book, apparently, The Design of Everyday Things, and it just is mostly just complaining about the shit. And pointing out how stupid it is and how it should be done, right? Because it's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Can't wait until we get to look at Rob's new house and it will have old design where it won't be nearly as shitty. Well, maybe medium design. I don't know how old that house is.
It was only built a couple of years before my current place, so it's not going to be that old.
It might get away with slightly less.
I mean, it's had humans living in it that might actually have made changes.
Well, that is also the other thing, because it's not a brand new house that you've only just moved into, and it's literally as the builders left it. Shit.
I mean, my place is 2017. It was built, so I don't know what's crappy about the design. Seems quite good.
How do your toilets flush?
They have 2 buttons, and the one for the long flush is physically larger.
Wait, they're 2 separate buttons?
Yeah, 2 separate buttons on a panel on the top, yeah.
See, that's even better. That's quite nice.
And I think they have Braille on them as well, if you're blind.
Less nice. I mean, less nice aesthetically, but...
No, it's fine. That's fine.
Are any of your light switches behind the door?
No, they're on the right side. They're on the correct side. And it has is slightly too much. Like, I mean, it's fine. Obviously, it's good. But like, there are switches that control those plug sockets that are a different design with round holes instead of rectangular ones, which are they're like main sockets, but they're controlled by light switches, right? So you can plug in like lamps and have them controlled by the light switches, right, but I don't have any of those, so they're a bit redundant. Yeah, and there's a lot of plugs. I don't know.
I mean, that is the one thing about. That's the one decent thing about modern house design. A lot more plug sockets.
Yeah, I don't think I've got any issues thus far that I can think of. That's irritating me. The one thing that I fixed was it's got mechanical ventilation. It's not air conditioning, but it's mechanical ventilation. And there's a unit in the utility cupboard that you can turn on and off with a switch for
an extractor fan, basically.
Extractor, basically, for the whole place. It's not like just a kitchen extractor. It's for the whole place, right? And there's vents in every ceiling and stuff. And the vents in the rooms are quiet, but the actual extractor thing in the cupboard makes a noise that you can hear in the hall. Which is slightly annoying. So I was relieved to find out that you can turn it off with that switch. But then it said in that handbook that it's best to leave it on, just to stop condensation or whatever. So I was like, oh, that's annoying. I'm going to be turning this on and off. So I got one of those SwitchBot things, which I think was a Kickstarter, but my brother was talking about. And it's like a little white plastic box, which just has a little servo actuator arm that just presses switches, remotely. I just got that.
So you literally, it's like a Lego Mindstorms kit you fit to your existing light switches.
Yeah, to your switch. And you just stick it with them 3M, and then it just presses the switch. And then it comes with a little hook which you can stick to it so that it can rock a switch back and forth, so it can turn on and off by just pulling or pushing. And then I just Bluetooth to it, use the app, and I could just set a schedule because it's got an internal clock, and now it just turns the thing on and off every day. Yeah, so that's awesome.
So is that, presumably that's not wired in though, that's battery, right?
It's battery, yeah. Apparently it lasts 6 months at least. I don't know how. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like most of my window sensors, as it turns out, they only last about 6 months.
Yeah.
I hope those have some kind of warning on them.
Well, I've coded in a warning. So, like, if they go offline, it's like, and you were using the Smart Things app or whatever, you could then, you'd have to look at them and they would say offline, and you'd be like, oh, what's that about? But no, I've coded in as part of our good night routine. It will send a notification saying, yeah, these sensors are offline.
Oh, that's handy. Let you know when it's...
It's handy, except for the bit where it doesn't do it by default.
Yeah, it would have been quite nice. But I think that's
these great safety features that become incredibly unsafe randomly.
Yeah.
I mean, as it turns out, I think that's like a fairly widespread problem with like smart sensors in general, and that their battery, when it reports the battery, it's not right anyway. Like, so these sensors, they tend to go, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm dead. I'm just gone. Like, right. I was at about 50%. No, now I'm off. So, like, you can't really judge it based on that. Irritatingly, I can't put like I'm about to run out of power because they just go. And apparently that seems to be a thing, and not just out of the Smart Thing sensors. There's quite a few others that seem to have that problem. It's like, great, that's no good. But you can at least tell me when they're dead. So yeah, when we have a long press on the bedside button that will turn off the house and arm the security mode. And
cool.
If there's any problems with that, you get sent a notification on Alexa and on your phone.
And then you inconveniently have to get up and deal with it.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. That was the reason why I got the window sensors in the first place, right? And so unless we leave one open and then we go to bed and it's all like, and then it's all like, yeah, you've left a window downstairs open, you idiot.
Convenient.
Although
are you going to need more sensors for your new place?
Yeah, probably. Although I've been trialing a different, because it's hard to get hold of SmartThings official sensors now. Like I don't think Samsung makes them anymore, which is annoying because they're the best. And they other than the battery thing, but they do work very, very well. So I've been looking at cheap, crappy alternatives, and I've attached one to the fridge now. That has come into effect a couple of times this week. So when Gnome's in the kitchen, she has a habit sometimes of just leaving the fridge open. And so after a certain period of time, the Echo devices in the house will just go, "The bloody fridge is open."
Nice. I like the sarcastic tone. That's the key part of it. Left the bloody fridge open.
Boom, boom. The bloody fridge is open.
That's cool. I mean, that's the dream of computers talking to you, is that they're going to be sarcastic, right?
It's quite nice that you can like rig up routines like that. So it's So when if you have an announcement that comes through Alexa or Echoes or whatever, then you can just put whatever text you want in it.
Yeah,
which is nice. Even so, like even doing something like that, I think I had to jump through some hoops to get it to work, because like the Amazon ecosystem on its own doesn't have the ability to say when a contact sensor has been open for a certain period of time. You can track when a sensor is open, but you can't track when that sensor has been open for so long. So what I actually have to do is I have to have a routine in SmartThings which can do that. But then I somehow need to get that knowledge to the Amazon ecosystem to tell the Echoes to do stuff. So you have to. I use WebCore to rig up a virtual contact sensor, as in one that isn't real, doesn't exist. But I can use WebCore to say like when this routine runs on SmartThings, or effectively when SmartThings triggers this virtual switch, you can then open this virtual contact sensor, which the Echo ecosystem can see, and will then trigger a routine on the Echo ecosystem to actually read the announcement. So even to get something this simple working how I wanted it to, I had to jump through quite a few hoops. Nothing still quite works in smart home. Nothing still is quite there. It's really not. It's great that you can.
I mean, I wouldn't mind like some amount of that kind of hoops thing if it was all just a more simplified sort of code base, even just like
I mean that's where things like
straight drag and drop code would be great.
There is, if you want to go fully custom, there is a platform called Home Assistant that you can run on a your own server effectively, or on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And then that pretty much is that. Like you're entering code territory if you want to get into that. And it is hugely customizable. But then you're still going to hit these roadblocks of, hey, you want your home speakers to do a thing. You've got to integrate with the platform those home speakers are on. And that's where things like Home Assistant and stuff get pretty goddamn complicated as far as I can tell, because someone somewhere needs to have written a thing which is probably a hack and will probably get unsupported at some point. Blog. It's like, no one quite does it properly. The Amazon system, none of the smart home systems move fast enough either to really be like, oh, it'd be great if it did this thing. It's like, yeah, they might add it in a few years' time. Things that seem simple.
It's like that's where you just need to commit to the down light switch situation and just have everything be separate robots, like Lego Mindstorms, where you just build a robot to physically interact with the thing rather than try to create a new thing that does it.
Yeah, it's quite a genius idea.
Like a physical taskbot. Yeah,
because they also make like a little robot, which is basically like a little remote control car, basically, that like hangs from curtain rails and like will draw the curtains, which is kind of cool. But I don't think it will work with these. I'm going to just replace these with, when I get the save up a bit more, I'm just going to get motorized roller blinds, I think.
Those are quite expensive, though.
I know, but that will be the big augmentation for the flat. It might take a year or something to get those, but I'm going to get those, I think.
Yeah, even because you can get smart rails as well now, can't you? Where they're specifically built to draw and close curtains. But those on their own are pretty pricey.
Yeah, I'm going to get the full roller blinds, I think. Find a company that will fit them custom, bespoke or whatever. But that'll be down the line because I spent all my money. But I think that will be the pièce de résistance for this place. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice. That's another one of those I left all the curtains open when I left the house. Press a button, close all the curtains.
Yeah, just automatically close them. That'd be cool.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Luckily, I only have 2 rooms with windows, but they are huge windows. So it will be expensive.
Yeah, that almost makes it worse, doesn't it? Lots of little windows are probably quite manageable.
Yeah, because with little ones, you can literally get motorized blinds from IKEA, but not with these. These are going to have to be custom because they're floor to ceiling, massive windows.
Massive windows.
Massive. But yeah, that'll be the final. What do you call it? Thing on the cake. What do you call it?
Icing?
Cherry on the cake. There you go.
On top? Icing on the cake, cherry on top.
It's more like icing, yeah. I would say blinds are more like icing than a cherry. They cover the thing.
Yeah, they're definitely more flat.
Yeah, they're more flat. Anyway. Icing on the cake.
This is a podcast about video games.
Yeah, but there's no video game news.
There's very little.
I'm reliably informed.
There was a Nintendo Indie World, but there's really not much to pull from that caught my eye, honestly. Do you remember that I mentioned they were making a new Ninja Turtles game, sort of based on the Turtles in Time style, like a beat 'em up. I didn't realize that was being made by Tribute, and it's oh, hang on a minute, now I'm even more interested because Tribute are formed by basically the ex-developers that were in that sort of that weird Ubisoft mush that ended up making Scott Pilgrim, and then went on to make a sequence of less good games, let's say. Flint Hook was all right. I think they were all right. Let's put it that way, but they haven't really hit their stride again since that. So, hey, they're making a beat 'em up, which is what I love them for.
Yeah. And it's mutant turtle themed, apparently. Ninja Turtle themed.
I mean, that's not the good part of this, but...
No, okay, well.
Other than people quite like Turtles in Time, but, I spotted that. On their montage, I spotted the House of the Dead is getting a remake.
What about Typing of the Dead?
Didn't say anything about Typing of the Dead.
Damn it.
Because it's on the Switch, I guess. Typing on a Switch might be a bit awkward.
Yeah, but shooting on a Switch isn't going to be great either.
Yeah, how is that going to work? Is it just going to... I guess it'll just be the weird... you'll just use the Joy-Cons to do pointery-like actions, but those pointery-like actions aren't great with the Joy-Cons, are they? Because they don't have the IR pointer.
Well, it depends how well they implement the gyro version of the pointing, because that can work pretty good.
It's all right, isn't it? But they always need... The problem with those is you always need to recalibrate constantly.
Super calibration, right? Maybe.
I mean, in theory, with a House of the Dead-esque game, it could almost probably do that automatically every time you reload, almost. Because there's going to be a distinct pause in your firing patterns every time.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's it. Maybe the button press to reload is a calibration. Just weird. It's probably going to be like Panzer Dragoon remake, no extras. Just here's House of the Dead. Enjoy it for an hour. That's my guess, anyway. There's no House of the Dead 2, anyway. House of the Dead 1 is not as good.
True.
Fez. They're actually putting that out again on Switch.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, like, of all the games, I thought that thing was never going to see the light of day anywhere else after what happened to, like, Polytronic and him saying he was, like, out of the business or whatever. But hey, no. Someone
money to
went
be
back
made.
to it, yeah, and thought the Switch would be a good place for it. I mean, I don't even think that game came out on Xbone or PS4. Like, I think maybe you can play the 360 version on Xbone. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think it ever came out on anything apart from the original and PC.
Yeah.
Well, it may have come out on the PlayStation.
I'm really not sure. Yeah, it is odd though. Yeah, it's just a strange, like, oh hey, we haven't seen this game for like a decade. By the way, the Switch, power of the Switch. And one more thing was their reveal of Oxenfree 2, which I find kind of interesting that they went back to that because, you know, Oxenfree was decent, and then they went and made Afterparty that I hated. Don't say that very much, but yeah, that game sucked. Yeah, so it's nice to see them returning to it, I guess, but I don't know. Maybe I've lost faith in it now because of Afterparty. And that was the indie world, really. Like, I don't really want to. There's nothing really to pull from there. Roll7 are making another Ollie Ollie game after Laser League failed them.
Is it Ollie Ollie World or something?
Ollie Ollie World, yeah.
Does that imply it's like open world but 2D or something?
Yeah, that's kind of what they're saying. Different art style this time. So it's a bit more French comic booky, I guess. A bit more like how Sable and all Tintin looks, I guess. That sort of.
It's Belgian.
Yeah. Well, it was sort of a little disappointing to see that that's what Roll7 are doing now, because I really liked Laser League. It didn't get enough of an audience to stay alive for very long, which is a bit of a shame. But I thought the actual design of the game was really decent, and it deserved better. So in a way, it's disappointing for me to see them return to Ollie Ollie, because it's just like, you know, you guys have proven that you could do more than just this. Yeah, that's kind of all I got really from that. So, you know, it wasn't very long.
And that's the news.
That's Nindies.
Oh, it's Nindies.
Yeah. The rest of there's a couple of little bits of other news points, minor things. Like, yeah, you meant as you picked up on before we began the cast, Dan, Amazon has cancelled whatever the Lord of the Rings MMO they were making, which I guess is adding even more to the woe that Amazon Games is going through.
So was that going to be a tie-in with their TV series?
I have no idea. Yeah,
what's going on with that? I think, are they filming that? Because obviously filming in New Zealand they can do with the COVID.
Sure, because it's mostly free.
Such a problem there. Yeah, because that's set in the Second Age, isn't it? Or is it set in the Third Age, like earlier in the Third Age?
What are these ages?
The TV show, the Ages of Middle Earth. You know, the Lord of the Rings takes place at the end of the Third Age. Yeah. And there were many times before that, thousands and thousands of years of stuff.
And yet only 3 ages.
Yeah, but they're really long.
You think they would have come up with some more sub-ages to fill out the
the thing that really confuses me every time is that there's an event that happens where Numenor, the island, is drowned because basically the humans on Numenor, they're badasses. The Numenorians. Numenorians. They're like the most badass of men or whatever, and they live for ages, not as long, not immortal, but they're kick ass or whatever. But they get corrupted by Sauron naturally, and they get too big for their boots, and they try to invade the Undying Lands, Valinor, by sailing to the west. And God is like, fuck that. As soon as they arrive, because at that moment, the Earth, it's not the Earth, Arda, the equivalent of the Earth, is flat. I think it's flat. And then he says, sod that. He destroys their island like Atlantis, and then he makes the whole world round, and he removes Valinor from the world so that there's no way you can sail to it. So when you sail, you just go round in a circle and you don't get to Valinor. Unless you have the secret path that the elves can go, the straight road, which is where Frodo and co go at the end when they sail off. They actually leave the world and go to the Undying Lands where it's all nice. Then anyway, that event where the whole world gets remade and made into a circle, into a sphere, that does not delineate an age. That actually happens in the middle of an age, and it does not start a new age. Yeah, I know.
So you'd think that would be an age, right? It's
you would think so.
Going from Ice Age to whatever age we're in now,
exactly
regular ass age.
I mean, maybe in that case, it's like it wasn't very noticeable to most people.
Maybe that's true. Because when Sauron's defeated at the end of the Lord of the Rings, at the end of the film or whatever, that is the end of the Third Age and beginning of the Fourth Age. So that is an age-ending event. But for some reason, completely changing the structure of the world from flat to round does not end an age. It happens in the middle.
You think that would have some side effects?
Yeah. I mean,
there might be some mountains changing.
Oh, yeah. Well, at the end of the First Age, the entirety of Beleriand, or whatever it's called, which is like a Middle-earth-sized region, is completely destroyed and drowned in the sea.
So was this MMO then Lords of the Old Republic?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Maybe that's what the TV show is. I think it's Elves of the Old Republic, basically. But is that fun? I don't know. I'm sure it'll be mostly men, won't it? Because they're more interesting. Because elves are a bit boring. That's the problem with elves, isn't it?
You want the dwarves?
Yeah. See, the dwarves have their own battles, like with the orcs and stuff, that is completely separate from the elves and the humans. They just have their own like wars. Like Moria or whatever.
About dwarves.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, there's Durin or whatever, and because the Balrog that you see, you shall not pass and all that. That Balrog is Durin's bane because he had a big fight with the dwarves like hundreds of years before that. So you could do a whole series just on the dwarves and the orcs. Although they kind of did that in the stupid Hobbit movies, and it wasn't very good.
Rock and stone.
Yeah, but they used that material, part of that from the appendices, the Lord of the Rings, and they just shoved it into the Hobbit movies for no reason, just to extend them. Yeah.
It's like, we've taken this shorter thing, and we still want to make three-hour epics.
3 fucking epic films out of a children's book.
We never did watch the end of The Hobbit.
Don't bother. It's not
like we watched the first 2. Gnome can't remember anything about the desolation of Smaug.
It's not very memorable.
No, it really isn't. I can't remember anything about the first Hobbit film. I remember more about Smaug than I do the first one.
I mean, I remember the scene where they come, at the beginning, they come to Bag End, but that's only because I remember it from the book, really. Where they keep turning up and there's more and more dwarves and he's trying to serve them or whatever. That's memorable.
Yes. Okay, yeah.
And then I remember Smaug talking, right? Benedict Cumberbatch or whatever, with the piles of gold.
Yes, yeah.
I don't remember
visually,
much else.
I remember that, but yeah.
And I remember Sylvester McCoy as Radagast visually. The guy with the bird shit in his hair. He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't remember much beyond that.
No.
I remember the action sequence of the barrels going down the river being really stupid looking.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty dumb.
And that
was pretty dumb in general.
Yeah, it was dumb. And I remember some of the cameos in Lake Town because you've got Stephen Fry and Stephen Colbert, I think, in Lake Town.
Cameo Town, you mean?
Yeah, Cameo Town.
Word up.
Anyway,
let's finish off this news. Let's finish off this pansy news section. Epic Games, everyone was wondering like how much money they were sinking into like their exclusivity deals and giving away free games, and it turns out it's a lot of money because Apple have like basically laid it all bare as part of their lawsuit against Epic for the whole Fortnite thing and the circumventing the Apple Store thing or the iOS, whatever that's called, the App Store. There we go.
The App Store,
circumventing that. So apparently the Epic Games Store has lost $330 million since its opening.
Right.
And I'm sat here thinking, it's like, okay, that's a lot of money that they've lost. Tim Sweeney doesn't care of Epic Games. He's like, yeah, that's part of the investment. That's fine. And then and I'm wondering if he's like, yeah, that's fine, simply because Fortnite probably makes more money than that's losing.
Probably.
That's my guess here.
And it's a investment, right? To bootstrap a platform that will make a ton of money, Steam style, right?
Although, let's talk about that for a second, because it's like that Epic Store is still it's still way behind where I expected it to be at this point in time. Like, it still doesn't have proper friend control or like interactions or a chat platform or any of that. It's still missing all of that. It's literally just a store, and that's it. Like, it's still super bare bones. It's like, and in fairness to them, I think there's probably more of that coming, because there's some sort of like Epic, like I don't know, you may have noticed through Rocket League, Zach. It's like it's now called. There's a part of it called Epic Online Services now.
Well, that was always what they called the back end of the Epic system.
Yeah, like you know, they had
that's why it linked to Rocket League directly.
Yeah. And all that stuff, but apparently that stuff, it's sort of not in the store particularly, and it's like there's an optional update I think you can get hold of that like prepares you for Epic Online Services being a part of the store. It's weird, anyway. That was just my point. It's like for something they're investing in, it doesn't seem like they're investing technologically in it all that much. Hurry the chuff up if you want to compete.
They're not gonna. It's gonna end up like every other one of those stores, just like we always said it would.
Well, yeah, but they do need probably some.
I was talking to Ho yesterday because she swang by when we were in the park, having a picnic, and of course, Mediatonic company got bought by Epic, and so they're going through acquisition stuff. And she had some interesting things to say, but apparently they got the producers. She got an email from Tim Sweeney saying we're married. so now she refers to him as her husband. Oh, my husband, Tim Sweeney.
This is our company husband.
That's quite funny.
Lol.
I think they were all a bit worried about crunch culture because Mediatonic was super against crunch culture, and the Epic, like, they basically won't rule it out, as you can imagine. So that's kind of
depends how heavy-handed they're going to be. Like, you'd like to think that most acquisitions, like the actual publisher, doesn't force crunch upon the developer.
Yeah, but it's not that Epic are just Mediatonic's publisher. It's not Epic owned.
No. Right? It's more than it is more than that. But even so,
yeah, we shall see.
And finally, this is more of a discussion point than anything else, because it's interesting. Like in the wake of the Snyder Cut. Basically one of the like leads or creatives from Dragon Age 2 was asked whether or not he'd do some, like he basically mentioned like it'd be interesting to do a Snyder Cut of Dragon Age 2 to be all like, hey, here's all the stuff we left on the cutting room floor, and here's what the vision actually was supposed to be, which then got me thinking, and it's like, would that approach actually be decent, like in the realm of like remakes and remasters and stuff like that we get all the damn time? Would it be more interesting for games to actually turn around and go, no, when we mean like the director's cut version of the game, it's like, no, there's actually quite a lot. This was the original vision, like the full vision. Like we put all the stuff we cut back in,
right?
stuff that was cut for production reasons, not necessarily quality reasons, right? Yeah, if you cut it because it was crap, leave it cut. But
yeah, that may be like they'll talk about Halo and the library level or whatever, and it was like the original plan was to do this, and then it ended up being a series of corridors because of performance problems or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you could go back and fix that the way you originally wanted to have it.
I mean, I'd love that for Halo because I don't like the visual style of the the anniversary edition.
Sure.
And it would be nice. That was always the complaint about the original Halo, was it had copy pasted corridors. So if you just fix that about what is otherwise a perfect game, and do a better visual treatment, that would be awesome. Yeah. But that isn't. I mean, the Snyder Cut is weird because it's like it was specifically. I mean, obviously it's a movie, so it's not exactly the same. But it was specifically hijacked, not hijacked, because it happened because of a family tragedy, right? It wasn't like taken away from.
That's one of the reasons, yeah.
But it was taken over by a completely different director with a different vision halfway through. And if that happened to a video game, has that? Presumably that has happened, but
that must happen.
Yeah,
plenty of times. Yeah.
But when that happens, you'd have to find a good one to make it analogous to the Snyder Cut, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you think of any?
You think of projects that may have been cut, there's probably games where they were forced to come out earlier than they had originally planned, so stuff was cut to make the release date, right? I reckon that must happen all the time.
Oh, yeah, that definitely happens.
I mean, you can just imagine if Cyberpunk was given another decade, right? It might have actually come out as a finished game. Yeah.
If that's not the same. Being shitty and buggy isn't the same as cut content.
No, true. But I was watching a retrospective review of Vagrant Story, which is an old Square Enix game. Well, probably not even Square Enix. It was probably SquareSoft at that point on PS1. Right. And it's like a game I didn't really know a lot about. But is one of that era's more interesting games by the looks of it. Like, it's quite cool. Not sure I'd ever play it, but it's quite cool. And but as part of that, they were saying it's like, limitations on the PS1 meant we basically had to cut half of our original scenario out of the game. Like, so what was left was only half of the vision, and it's like, wow, like what could you have done if that wasn't a problem?
It's hard because sometimes the constraints are what make it. Like that, Cyberpunk is a great example of something where they thought we can do anything, and they didn't constrain themselves, and then they just blew. It kind of was true with Metal Gear Solid 5 as well, where they just were like, we'll just do everything we can think of, and then they got cut. Right, like that would be great. Metal Gear Solid 5 is already awesome, but if you could somehow, release the Kojima cut of that. That would be insane.
God, yeah. If that game was actually finished.
Yeah. I love that game, even in its unfinished state. I think it's cool. I mean, admittedly, the problem with it, as we've said before, is the story-wise, it's just not as insane and fun as other Metal Gears. Like,
sure. Not the main storyline, anyway. No. All the weird stuff is around the edges in MGS5. Well, I say that. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff in there too.
Yeah, but it's just not as I like that joke in the donkey thing where he goes through all the Metal Gear stories and he just has like 2 seconds for Metal Gear Solid 5 because nothing happens that matters.
Sure. Yeah. I guess the flip side of that is like you end up with games like Death Stranding, I suppose.
Like, but that was constrained by budget, right? That was to not
some extent.
It was a AAA game, but it wasn't of the same budget anywhere close as something like Metal Gear 5, right? I don't think they gave them.
No, but then I reckon a great deal of the budget on Metal Gear 5 was spent on Kiefer Sutherland. But
maybe he doesn't do much.
I think they get some high-profile guys in. I suppose it's like I don't know how much of a paycheck Norman Reedus took away, but
yeah. Because I'm fragile, but I'm not that fragile.
Yes, fragile.
Fragile.
I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to think about. I wonder if you go back. Oh god! And when I was on that same video spree, I did watch one about Star Fox Zero.
Oh yeah,
and and why that. And it's like apparently like it came. I forget where this quote came from, but there was basically someone on the team that said it's like, yeah, we didn't really have much in the way of new ideas for this, other than shoehorning in the Wii U control schemes. And it's like,
yeah, it was just kind of annoying that like Miyamoto seemed excited about that, and then it didn't turn out to,
it's such
be
a lie. That's kind of the problem. It's like don't get me wrong, Miyamoto's a legend, but on this particular thing, he was dead wrong.
Yeah, he was totally wrong.
It's like just.
Well, he doesn't have a perfect record with like Wii Music and all that stuff.
Wii Music was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. It's cool that he pushes things forward, but
he tried. It's an experiment that just didn't work at all, and it came so late in the Wii U cycle as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I'm bummed about that. Like, I'm still bummed about Star Fox Zero. It's like it's just, even Platinum should have at least Platinum Games. Come on, you should have been able to pull it in a decent direction, but they didn't. The best thing about that Star Fox package was Star Fox Guard, and that's not even really that didn't have to be a Star Fox game. They actually used the Wii U in clever ways. I guess they might have been right though about what do we do with Star Fox? It's like, how do you beat Lilac Wars? Star Fox Armada or whatever.
Yeah, but you could say that about
GameCube didn't
like Smash Brothers. Like, how do you beat the previous one? I don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, you beat it by just making it longer and updating the graphics. That was pretty much what they needed to do.
Well, and they updated the graphics and then got rid of all the cool stuff. Like the branching paths weren't as interesting. The mechanics by which you unlocked the branching paths weren't interesting at all. It was just
It wasn't like they were making the 5th game in a series or something. It was only like technically the 3rd, I suppose. Well, 4th, I guess. If you want really technically,
if you count the Namco one. 5th if you count Star Fox 2.
But realistically, it was more like the 2nd game.
6th if you count the Star Fox Command on the DS. But yeah, probably the 3rd in the main line, I guess you could say.
I'd call it more like 2.5, because the R-Wing sections of Star Fox Adventures were the half. Because they were actually pretty good. They were just in a real bad game and not, long or anything.
Was Star Fox Adventures really bad?
It was pretty bad.
No, really? Okay.
I mean, clearly we're going to make a video of that at some point in the future.
See, I thought you were a defender of Star Fox Adventures.
I mean, it's like extremely average. Like, you can tell it's like Zelda but bad. Where it's just like, this is trying to be Zelda. It's just like, it's got no, style to it. It's just the most, it's that kind of classic, it's not quite like B tier. It's like very slightly above B tier. Like, these animations are all super stiff and like the actual mechanics of it feel janky, and it's that style of thing that's slightly better than pure B tier.
I guess there weren't many like Zelda clones then, though. Or Ocarina of Time Zelda clones at that point, right? There weren't that many. I mean, I can only really think
Outriders,
of or Beyond Good and Evil, I guess, had some Zelda-y elements.
I just looked up Res, because we were thinking of rail shooters because of Star Fox.
Yeah.
Res Infinite on PS4, because I was like, I should get that for PS4. And I remember it being slightly more expensive than I wanted to pay for it on PlayStation, compared to Steam. And I've just looked at it, and it says free.
What?
As part of our Play at Home campaign, you can download and keep this game at no extra cost. Download before 23rd of April.
Amazing. Everyone
should
do that.
I've just clicked add to library, so we'll see if that appears on
At least you
PS4.
can do that through the website now.
Yeah.
There was an annoying period of time where you couldn't do that if you're a PlayStation Plus or you had a PlayStation account. You just couldn't go to the website and just be like, add it, please.
That
I don't want
is
to have
excellent.
to fire up my PlayStation. Yeah, that is
Res
that is
Infinite, unit price of £0.
genius.
Amazing.
I mean, I've already got the Steam version, but might as well have that one as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to. I want to get my surround sound set up, but with the Sonos, which I'll see what it's like. But they delivered the stands, and I already had one speaker, for behind the sofa. But the other speaker, they're out of stock until the end of April. So now I have one on a stand, and I have to wait for the other one before I can enable the surround sound. But I want to try some res with some surround sound. Which is something you've taken for granted for many years, but I have not had.
Well, yeah, taking it for granted until I can't have it because of the stupid Series X not having an optical port.
Oh, right. Yeah, because that's the thing. So my soundbar current one has optical, but the new one is eARC, right?
Okay.
Which is HDMI cable. Yeah.
Is it 2.1?
I don't know. I think it does Dolby Vision as well. The new one.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. That's why I'm holding back at the moment. Is because I need eARC's one thing, and that does solve a lot of problems. But for my rig, I don't just need eARC. I need eARC with an HDMI 2.1 pass through,
right? In
order to feed the TV with enough bandwidth for that 4K 120 loveliness.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I mean, if it is 2.1, you're laughing. Aha, like that.
Aha,
aha, woo.
Where are we? What are we? Are we still in news?
That's the end of news.
Yeah. Okay, it's time for what you've been playing. Zach, I think it's your turn. What have you been playing?
Well, it's not going to be a very long section here either, because it's been not an interesting period of time.
I will say you could elongate it with the "What have you not been playing" section.
Well, I mean that's sort of what I'm about to do, but not quite, because it's not things I have been playing, but I was looking at Steam in general, and I looked at my wish list a couple of times, and I think for the last 2 weeks there's not been a single thing on my wish list that's been on sale, and I was like, holy shit!
Wow, it's emails all the time.
Yeah. I mean, my wish list isn't, super long. It's only 50. But still. That's quite weird. I mean, maybe that's a secret. Maybe that's a hint that there's a sale coming up. Because, no one wants to have their, special discounts before the sale discounts.
Yeah, could be.
And I guess also, technically, there are actually things I haven't been playing, but I noticed that I believe Subnautica Below Zero has finally actually come out.
I see.
Oh, sweet.
Not early access.
I mean, I don't know whether I'll get to that. I might wait for a sale on that as well. Because it's actually not that cheap. It's 25 quid. So it is a full indie game price, I guess.
Proper game.
So we'll see. I noticed that must have come out because I started seeing the various PlayStation and Microsoft's YouTube channels or whatever had started uploading adverts for it. And I was like, oh, that must mean it's actually come out now, the final version. Although I refrained from watching those videos in case of potential spoilers.
Right, yeah.
Not that I imagine there will be any spoilers, because, they wouldn't want you to get spoiled on that kind of game. But yeah, there's that. That's a thing that may happen in the future, maybe, but we'll see. And then what I have been playing mainly is continuing to grind away at the Pokemon mystery dungeons, because I'm reasonably determined that maybe this time I'll properly finish it. But it is a ridiculously long, I think I probably said this the first time I played it, but the story part of that game is probably a third of the actual length of all the content.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
So yeah, I've been trundling away at it, but it's just I've reached a kind of a weird point where it doesn't seem like I'm getting as much stuff as I should be any longer. You're not in the sort of early post game, you're unlocking tons of new Pokemon, and you're constantly getting missions, and then the missions are starting to stack up, and you're like, oh, I'll go to this one dungeon, and it has 6 missions I can finish in one run. But now I'm down to dungeons only have like one mission, and some of these dungeons you have to go through every dungeon to like complete them for the world map, because like the world map has like a percentage completion on it as well. And like a load of these dungeons I've never been to have just never had a mission to like, you know, do while I was there, which sort of doesn't incentivize you to go and do that. We're just like, I'll just run through this dungeon, but there's no point apart from to complete the map. But then the trouble with that is that you're also, when you go to a new dungeon, you're probably going to see new enemies, and then meeting the new Pokemon introduces them into like the pool, so they can then spawn their mission theoretically, and then you could get them into your team. So like theoretically going through new dungeons actually could potentially lead to more missions, but there's no way of knowing. And I do wish sometimes that they like, it's another one of those elements where it's like this game is better, but it still could be improved further, where it's just like it just doesn't tell you enough information about the dungeons. Like it tells you sort of how hard they are, but sort of it's like a hella vague 5-tiered difficulty rating that doesn't really tell you much about how difficult the enemies actually are. But the main problem is it doesn't like give you any kind of clue about, you know, type. The most important thing for Pokemon.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's obvious where it's like, oh, Electric Wasteland, I think it might be full of electric Pokemon, and it is, fortunately. But then you get like Flagstone Cave, where it's like, oh, I think I'll go in with some like anti-rock Pokemon, but no, it's all water Pokemon.
The other type of cave.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like some kind of information would be helpful.
So what's the flagstone part about that cave?
Well, it's just the type of rock that the cave's made out of, I guess. Just because the cave is also full of water. But yeah, that's the kind of thing where you wish it would give you slightly more information, but then like if it gave you too much, it'd make it too easy. If you knew exactly what Pokemon would spawn in every dungeon, and then you could just be like, "I'll just find the exact right type of Pokemon to bring with me, and even the right moves, because you know what moves everything has."
I guess what you want is one of those systems where it's like you don't know when you go into it the first time, but then it like populates it in the menu.
Yeah, that would help
go
too.
Back to
if it was like, because you have to go back to some ones you've done before because new missions have spawned, then you should have that information without having to like retain it yourself.
Yeah, you can look at the mission and be like, oh, you've seen these Pokemon in this dungeon.
Yeah, that would be nice. Also, talking about the stupid difficulty level thing, it has a classic like difficulty level slider that starts at normal.
Right.
It's like it starts at normal, and then the difficulty levels are difficult, very difficult, and super difficult. It's just like, this is not, just call it easy or something. I mean, come on.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but then no one would play it. Like you call it normal to be like, you should start here, right?
So you call it easy to be like, you should start here.
No.
No one does that though, do they?
Yeah, how many games do I...
Yeah, but it's not like it's a difficulty setting. It's just how difficult the dungeon is compared to all the other dungeons.
Oh, I see. Sorry. I thought you were...
okay.
I thought you said it was like a set, like it was a setting. Right, okay, yeah.
And also because like that scale is also made even worse by like the dungeons that you go through inside the limits of the story. Probably, I think the highest one on there only ever gets up to difficult. Like you're only going through like normal and difficult dungeons in the story, and then the very difficult and super difficult are only in the post game anyway. It's just like you probably should have just made it easy, normal, hard, and then like the harder ones could have come in the post game, and it would have been fine. So yeah, and then I'm still trying to decide on the best tactics to level up all the moves and whatnot. I don't think there is a good tactic. I was hopeful that there might be some kind of like way to prevent that thing that just kicks you out. Like if there was some kind of like ability or like special item you could use to just allow you to stay on one floor forever. Then you could use that to grind training, but I don't think there is. I was hopeful because I found a random item called an apathy orb.
Nice.
And I was like, what the hell does an apathy orb do?
It's the perfect Zach item.
Yeah. And I thought maybe that would just like, it prevents the dungeon from kicking you out, but it's actually just like, it prevents any enemy Pokemon on the floor from picking up items.
Right, because they can't be bothered.
Yeah, because they're pathetic about picking up items. But then that's not actually useful. Like, because there's another orb you can get called the Trawl Orb that just like scoops up all the items on the floor immediately. So you can just use that if you want to get all the items without the enemies picking them up. So I'm not sure what the exact point of the Apathy Orb is. It's just like an alternate version, I suppose.
What happens if enemies do pick up items? Do they tend to use them, or do they?
Only sometimes, like certain kinds of items they can use. But most of them, they just hold them until you kill them and then they drop them. Right. It's just an inconvenience to make it slightly more difficult to get the items, I guess.
But you're doing that anyway, right? You want to beat them up because you want to level your moves.
Yes, in that specific case, unless you're just trying to get to the stairs or whatever. Because that's some of the little you get these upgrades that only last inside the dungeons. So they just disappear at the end, and then so those are all temporary. But like you get ones for that which are like you can see all the enemies or you can see all the items. So that can help you if you want to either find all the items quickly or avoid all the enemies on your way to the exit. But then you're using valuable upgrade slots that you could put like extra damage output or make everything fall asleep when you hit them. Or all the other weird upgrades. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been doing on my 3DS. Still grinding away at it. I think I'm at like 500 and something Pokemon now out of 720. I'm getting to the point where I might need to start doing the stupid legendary fights. I tried one of them and it was just kind of ridiculous. Well, it was fine because I kind of knew what was coming because it was this setup where it was going to have like 3 of the sort of sub-legendary ones throughout the dungeon and then like the big boss at the end. And I got through like the 3 small ones easy enough, but then the big one was just like insanely overpowered compared to them. And I was like, oh, well, shit. Gonna have to leave that until I've leveled up a bit more, or just cheese it. But the trouble is, you can't cheese bosses that easily because, like, most bosses have the ability that like they shake off status conditions really fast, sometimes instantly.
Oh, really?
But if you put enough of those status conditions on them, sometimes you can hold them down a bit. But then the trouble with that is it's an incredibly risky technique where it's just like, if they do shake off all their conditions, they just instantly kill you.
Right, and that's nothing you can do.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm getting through that. And then the only other thing that's been happening is some Rocket League. Oh, and a bit of Satisfaction, I suppose. Although I haven't really got that much further into still haven't got to the actual new stuff again. But that's mainly because I've just not been playing it very much. I finally got around to dealing with that stupid coal situation of setting up the vehicles and the weird like conveyor ladder up the side of a cliff to transport the coal to the steel factory, which wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Although I'm pretty sure there's a mod for this naturally, but like I really hope that the developers actually implement some kind of in-game precision control for like the pathfinding of vehicles, because like when you have to like drive the route that you want your vehicle to follow, it's like you have to do basically a perfect run essentially of the route,
right,
and have it record that. You can go back after you've like recorded the route. You can like delete nodes. So if you like run into a rock and you stop temporarily, you can go back and like delete that bit and just have the 2 other nodes on either side connect. But like I want to be able to like pick up the nodes and like rotate or shift them around in the environment. That would make it way easier to deal with the little niggles of that system. Also because sometimes, because the pathing between nodes is like not as high fidelity as your actual driving, where it's just like it passes between these 2 nodes and you drove around this rock, but the AI just clips off this rock and flips over.
Yeah, we said that back in the day of was it an alpha video we did?
Yeah. It's still basically the same system. Actually, I think it might even be slightly. They might have removed one of the features of that. I don't remember if it was in that alpha. I'm pretty sure it was, but I think you used to be able to like set a speed on the nodes, so you could like make the vehicles drive slow. But now that doesn't seem to be there any longer. You can only just delete them.
I don't remember seeing the nodes at all. In fairness, I think we recorded something and left it.
Yeah, because you can hide them from the vehicles menu. And they also still haven't made it so you can properly ride the vehicles while they're auto pathfinding. You can stand on them, which sort of works, providing the terrain is not like lumpy and it doesn't just chuck you off. But if you try and board the driver's seat, even if the AI is on, it just ignores it if you're in the driver's seat. You can't just stand there and let it drive. You have to physically stand on it. And I bet that probably doesn't work very well in multiplayer. That probably throws you into space.
Whee!
In the classic physics glitch style.
My favourite.
Yep. And then just a little bit of Rocket League, where I've been doing sort of unusually well. Like I easily got the champion rewards for this season already.
Ooh, nice.
Surprisingly, I actually stayed in champion. I think I very nearly made it to champion 2, which I was just like, that can't be happening. That's way higher than it should be.
Well, after maybe that's last weekend, anyway.
That might just be like start of the season, though, where it's just like the generally more enthusiastic people are in at the start of the season, or like because there's a lot of unranked people, it's like kind of filtering them out in a way.
Maybe.
I don't know if at the start of the season when you go to unranked, does that actually affect like the whole bell curve essentially? Like if do unranked people still count as theoretically having their rank for the distribution?
I mean, you'd think, right? If that because you've still got your rank, haven't you?
Yeah, because it's not a full reset. It just hides your rank for 10 matches essentially. It's a bit dumb.
But we don't know if it's changed the algorithm a bit while you're in that state.
Yeah, I assume not, because even in champion games you'll still get unranked people who are presumably champions. It's not like they're unranked and literally in the middle of the ranks, like platinum or whatever. It still retains their rank hidden. But now because I was worried about, because I was in champion at the end of the last season, so I was trying to cheese it by getting all the other rank rewards in the extra modes like hockey. So I got all the way up to diamond rewards in hockey and then started playing actual freeze to get the champion rewards. But it turns out I didn't need to worry about that. I stayed well in champion for much longer than that. And now I'm done with this season, clearly, except not. All those other Rocket Pass levels to get through.
Yeah, not as great a Rocket Pass this time around. And I'm not...
You kind of say that every time.
No, I liked the last one. I liked the sort of music rave and all the music reactive stuff. I thought season 2 was decent. I wasn't so happy with what they're okay. Let's be straight. What they are calling season 2 and season 3, stupidly since the free to play changed. Season 1, I didn't think was all that, and I couldn't be asked with that. 3 doesn't seem all that good either. But and I disagree with their choice to make the post level 70 random color items the same for everyone and also not a secret. And it's that kind of sucks. It's I enjoyed getting to 70 and then getting the random, what random colored stuff are we getting this time? Yeah,
we talked about that. I guess not on the podcast, but we talked about that, where it's it clearly also, this is not relevant for us, but it clearly must super devalue the rarity of those items.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if this is a whole, another step in the loot boxes thing.
Maybe. Do you think?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
Well, it's because
what forced that.
Well, yeah, if you consider the idea that because they made the blueprints non-hidden, because that was the whole point of getting rid of those out of the loot boxes, because they didn't want the whole thing about loot boxes at the time was like, you don't want to hide the percentages and therefore we'll just show you what's in them, but then we'll get rid of that system entirely and just make it blueprints instead. So I guess you could argue that, again, it's like the same thing, where they're just like, we don't want to hide the probabilities, but making it the same for everyone is dumb. There was no reason to do that.
Yeah, the whole idea of the rocket pass is like, past 7, up to 70. That's where the value of your money, if you bought in and didn't just earn the credits from the last one. You're getting that. This is exactly what you're getting. So, which I thought would have been enough of a safety net for the whole loot box thing. So it's like, hey, no, this is exactly what you're going to get. This is exactly what you're paying for.
Yeah, I can't see that taking out the random was that argument, really.
Past that point, it's just a bonus, isn't it, really?
Yeah, exactly. It was always considered to be like the bonus. And part of the bonus was that you'd get them randomly. Like, you could get the ones, the cool ones, even if you didn't put in that much time. But now everyone knows exactly what they're going to get, and it's all the same. So when you see like the brown skin at level 74 or whatever, it's just like, well, no one wants that, and now everyone's going to get it.
Yeah. And then it'll be like, it's off-putting more than it is exciting, I think, because you look at that list and go like, oh, jeez. Especially this time. Maybe they just tuned it badly this time. It doesn't look all that great.
Well, I was saying that like, it would be even worse, but surely they could just go fully the other way and just make it so like every 10 levels beyond 70 is just one of the colours, and you just get all of the different versions in that colour. Here's the brown tiers.
No, I'm not sure I like that.
No, it would explicitly be worse, but it would be much less like, even less random.
Yeah, you got to earn those black tiers or whatever the most sought after colour is.
Because obviously then the internet speculation / obvious business model thing is like, well, obviously they just want you to buy all these tiers so you can skip through to the white stuff because you can see it now.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. There's an argument to that. Oh,
so, God damn it.
Maybe they'll revert it. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Although, I'm
stuck with it for this season.
This sort of outrage, I would have imagined it would have changed quite quickly, but I guess it is quite kind of a big deal to revert that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think you could change it once it's out, because if people had bought in wanting that, you're then taking it away from them, which is not necessarily a good look either. So I think it's got to stay for this season, whatever the opinion ends up being.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like, this is what we're doing. If it's crap, it's crap. Fine, we won't do it again.
Except they probably don't care.
No, they probably don't.
They probably don't give any craps about what the community has to say about it. If it does change at all, it will purely be looking at a balance sheet and be like, how much money did we make this time? Oh, less? Well, we'll change it.
Yeah, probably. Someone from Epic probably looks over it and goes, whatever you're doing, don't do that. Or keep doing that.
Yes. And that's pretty much everything I did. Not very much at all.
Right, it's Rob's turn.
Right, well,
what's been playing, Rob?
A couple of things of note. We have to talk about Yakuza 3. Naturally. So, having managed to zone out the annoying audio of all the text boxes a little bit more, to the point where I now barely notice them, that did eventually happen. Like, as annoying as it was at the start of the game, it's like by the end of it, it's just like, it's just the game. I did actually manage to finish the storyline, probably in record time for me for a Yakuza game.
Oh, right.
It's because it doesn't. Okay, yeah, it's Yakuza 3. Like, it's not like it's like had years and years of the everything that studio has learned in order to improve upon it. It's like it's just a remaster, and as a result, it's not as long. There's not so much side stuff you need to engage with in order to get as far into that as you need to, or be as leveled up as you need to do the end, because I ended up finding the end sequence kind of easy.
Oh yeah.
By the time I did it, which is very much not a thing I've experienced in Yakuza before. Normally those fights are pretty tough. So that was a little unusual. Also, I just generally don't think the story's very good this time round, which is a shame. Well, it doesn't reach the levels of madness that the previous two did.
Right. That's a shame. You'd think they'd be trying out the ante.
Well, yeah, but it kind of, I don't know. It's weird because it's like there's almost the building blocks of something interesting there, and then as you learn more about it, it becomes less and less interesting. Like it has the exact opposite effect. It's more interesting at the start of the game when you have no idea what's happening, and then when you learn what's happening, it's like, well, that's dull. And then by the time you get to the end of it, and then you're the last fight, and you defeat who I guess is the primary antagonist, but almost, kind of the primary antagonist, I'll call him that. His motivation is kind of a nothing in the first place anyway. So you're like, well, what the hell was all this for? It makes no sense. But not in a good way makes no sense. Where's my giant golden castle that springs forth from the split remains of the previous castle?
That's right.
There's none of that here. It's just there's a couple of stupid sequences, but it's just there's one death in particular where it's like you barely know the guy that's died, like, you haven't known him all that long. You shouldn't be as upset. Kiryu should not be as upset about this character's death as he is. And then the scene plays out far too dramatically and far too, like, it goes on for way too long. And what they talk about is super dumb. Like, the dying words are like a really, like, am I a real man? kind of thing. Like,
am I a real man?
Does this count as throwing my life away for no reason? It's like, it's I don't know, I mean, that's kind of the charm of Yakuza in a way, that it is like bad like this at times.
Yeah, of course, part of it.
But it's mostly bad this time rather than fun bad.
Yeah, it's tipped over that line a little bit.
Yeah. Which again makes me wonder. It's like, I wonder how much was really tweaked from in the originals, but yeah, it's just not as not a strong one. This one. I mean, I went back into it after I did that, and the amount of faff on available to you is large. There is a great quantity of faff you can take part in. Because I think there's my guess is there's about 100 submissions, and I've done 70 odd of them. Most of them are rubbish, like go to place, have fight. I think that's the other thing as well. Like,
classic.
I think that's the other thing as well. They're just not. There's even on the sub story front. There's not as many. There's not as many that land well, or as like, this is a real memorable moment of this game. There aren't so many of those here. Like, if any, really, this time round. They're all kind of cookie cutter, which is a bit of a shame. Even like it brings back there's an assassin target thing as well, where you're going after hitmen, and those in the Kiwami games, those tend to be some of the weirder fights you can have, because they're just normal fights, but some of the guys you go up against are dressed funny, or they will have a bizarre weapon, or there'll be some rule here that means the fight is slightly odd. And there's kind of none of that here, really. It's like they're just fights against dudes that are slightly tougher than your regular dudes. And at least there's one mission of that I've done so far that has been interesting, and there's been kind of a big ass fight on top of a skyscraper with like 1 billion dudes surrounding the arena. And like, as you defeat more of them just step in off the edges and be like, right, my go. And that was kind of cool. Yeah. I think like they haven't quite figured out how to funnel you into its extras is the other thing. Like I don't like darts is there. There's the hostess game is there, although that's bad this time. The you can play any type of gambling you can think of. There's probably a version of it here. Koi-koi's in there, Ochikabu's in there, shogi's in there, bowling, batting, golf. It's got them all.
I mean, that's very Japanese.
Golf, yeah, it's got them all, but it doesn't. Other than a couple of times, it doesn't really funnel you into doing them. I think my favourite stupid thing about the game is probably this thing called Revelations. I don't know if I talked about them this last time, but there's you meet a guy called Mac, who basically is on the search for a perfect photo opportunity. Has been traveling the world, and every now and then you'll get an email from him saying, "I've heard the rumor about these people in this location," and so you go there, and if you spot something like or a couple of people who might not be doing the normal crowd animations or something like that, you can look at them in first person view, and it'll bring up a prompt saying "look," and you do so, and then Kiryu's eyes, it suddenly cuts to Kiryu's eyes suddenly widening, and he goes "Oriwa," and like just stares at them, and suddenly whips out his flip phone. And he's like, whew. And then this ridiculous cutscene will start playing out of something really dumb happening, and there'll be like QuickTime events to take photos of it as it's happening. And then at the end of it, you get a choice between a few things to blog about.
Right.
so Kiryu would then blog about the event that's then happened, and if you've picked the right thing out of those options, he'll have a revelation that reveals a new fight move to him in his mind.
Through the blogging process.
Through the blogger.
Yeah. It's a bit dated.
Yeah. It's this is set in 2007, I think.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. I love that. It's just really, the way it's presented is really stupid as well, because it's just like it's that initial "Oriwa" as he turns around to look at it, and it's like whoa. And then the dumb thing happens. And the dumb things are normally pretty good as well, those little cutscenes. The first one in particular is fantastic. It's really stupid. And then when he's having the sort of revelation, like in his mind's eye, like in black and white, you can just see him do the fight move while it's playing this like drum. And it's like the whole thing put together is really dumb and great. It's like, just lean into that side, and I think that's what they do nowadays. They lean into that more.
Right. They had to do this game to learn that they needed to lean more into that stuff.
6 or 7 games. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's all right. You can see the heart is there, but it's they hadn't quite got it together just yet, which it does have me interested to see exactly what 4 and 5 are going to end up being like as the other remasters. It's like, what steps did they take from here? How long does it take to get to what I'm used to? So yeah, Yakuza 3. It was a shorter Yakuza experience, but yeah, definitely not as good as the Kiwamis. I'll get to 4 eventually. What else have I been up to? Talking of golf, I started playing What the Golf.
What the golf?
What the Golf? Which is a stupid little golf.
You didn't get through it in one go.
Well, no, it turns out it's bigger, way bigger than I thought.
I was definitely expecting it to be a one shot.
Yeah, I thought you could probably get through it in like maybe a couple hours, but I've spent a couple hours on it, and I'm maybe a third of the way through it. And there's an extra campaign that they added to it later. So anyway, this game's real stupid. Go watch the trailer for it. It's about surprise. Every level is about surprising you with a change in the mechanics of the game.
Okay.
So it starts off as
to
golf.
Make you say what the golf.
Yeah, basically. The first level is probably the most golfy one in the game, and then from there you're in trouble. In the best possible way. It's really stupid. Like I think it's only the second level where in like the mechanics are basically a bit like Power Putt. So you're like, or Power Putt 2, I should say. where you're sort of you're pulling back from the ball and the amount of power you give. That's right, and then you release the mouse, and then something happens. And it pretty much plays the classic power putt like golf ball thwack sound effect as well every time you do that. Nice. So, thwack. The parallels are there, and then I guess it's kind of what we always dreamed it should be.
it's the vision of power putt.
Yeah, and so yeah, like the first level, you're hitting the ball. You don't actually have to get it in the hole. You just have to hit the flag. That's the first conceit.
Okay,
like hit the flag. And on the second level, you do that, and instead of the golf ball moving, the golfer flies.
Right. So the ball stays still, and the golfer.
The ball stays still, and the golfer just goes.
Okay.
And it gets crazier from there. Like there's levels themed on football. You get some gravitational levels in space. One of the first challenge levels I did had you as an office chair attempting to get to the flag before a sheep. It's it's madness. It's a lot of madness, and it's very funny. Covfefe. Yeah,
sounds interesting.
It's one of those things I don't. I want to say things about. I want to say like all the stupid levels I've encountered and how dumb it is and how many cats I've tipped over.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah. Most of the fun is going to level and just being like, what? Literally being like, what? What we're doing? What?
What the golf?
What is this?
Okay.
And sometimes cool. Like, and as much of the humor is in the stupid one-word success quotes or the success things that appear on screen. Like whenever you finish a level, it will say something really stupid. Like there was one level where I was a rocket-powered barrel instead of a gun. I was just flying around this level, trying to get to the flag, and then you get to the flag and it just puts on big letters on screen, Rocket League.
Rocket League. I've got a sense of humour for sure.
Yeah, it's decent. I like it a lot. Yeah, so there's that. I played an insane amount of Among Us last weekend.
Yeah. The party game du jour. Du jour? No, that's the wrong. Du jour. Not du jour. Du jour.
I have to admit, I was pretty skeptical about the whole Among Us craze, as I am with most crazes. It's like I look at it and think, that can't be that good, can it? There's something about like excess popularity, I think, in things that makes me think that's probably actually crap. Yeah, this was not one of those times. This game was a lot of fun.
I think the thing about excess popularity is it sometimes is more an indication of like it's totally fun, but it won't last long.
Right.
It's kind of like Ultimate Chicken Horse and stuff. Great, but like you can only play that so much.
I don't know. We keep going back to Ultimate Chicken Horse. It's
I think that one is a bit more long lasting and not as popular. It's a direct correlation.
It's on the curve somewhere.
And then you've got like Fall Guys. It was insanely popular. It didn't last.
I mean, it's still going. It's still pretty popular. But...
I mean, yeah, but there's always a tail off. But
yeah, sure.
If you see the huge burst, then you know everyone will go in, but then probably won't stick around.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're unaware, Among Us is a social deduction game where you get put on a spaceship and you've got to go do your jobs before a murderer among you manages to kill off everyone else. And the game's basically over when the murderer manages to get all but one of the other players. Because as soon as there's one left, it's like there's no guesswork involved. So it's just like, I've won. And so there's we were playing it. I don't know how people play this normally, right? I think it's all like text chat in the normal variant of it. But we had a chat channel going, which under normal circumstances totally breaks the game, right? Because you could just tell people, I was just killed by this guy. So the trick is to use a little thing called Better Crew Link. So called because there's a thing called Crew Link, and then someone forked it and made a better one. called Better Crew Link. And what that is that's basically a chat channel, but it links to the game. So if you're dead, you can't talk.
Right.
Yeah, the traditional way that...
and all the voices are proximity voices as well, so you can only talk to people who are nearby.
Yeah, people had already figured that out, like, before that was even a mod or whatever, where it's just like, you make house rules, essentially, for your voice channel.
Yeah.
Mute yourself when you die.
Although it is pretty hilarious when people like forget that there's a voice channel, because there were some times where the killer was found simply because like someone called a meeting or something, and the killer would immediately just go, "Damn it!" And it's like, "Oh no, wait, it's you, isn't it?"
Well, that should have been solved by the proximity chat, but you just have to remember that you suddenly appear in a meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the thing is with that game is it's actually pretty, the construction of the game part is pretty simple. It's not very, I wouldn't even say it's that well made particularly. It's like, it's ropey for sure. I'm playing, it's available on all kinds of platforms, but I was playing the Steam version, and it's like clearly not designed for high resolution screens in spots. But, that's how you get the mod to work. So you have to play it there. It's only £4 as well. Bargain. But yeah, that's a hell of a lot of fun. The strategies people come up with, like how you lie, basically, and how you like convince it. I had quite a decent run as the imposter, as it turns out.
Oh, nice.
It turns out I'm a bit of a bastard.
Yeah.
Revealing stuff about myself. Although I'm actually bad at the killing part of it. I think I was quite good at the lying and the making everyone doubt each other part of it, but not so good at the actual committing murders in places that aren't just really obvious. Because it is quite tricky. Like, it's all, people remember where you are and where you've been, and so I think it's more fun the more players you add. We had 5 or 6 most of the time, but it got really interesting when that went up to like 8 or 7 or 8, and then things started to get a bit more interesting, a bit mad. So top tip, if you can, get 10 people together.
10.
That's the max. That's as high as it goes. Right. And perhaps devise some rules. Like, I think we were playing 2 imposters at that point when we had like 8 people in it. So it's like, 8 people, but 2 of them are bad. And that gets
I
quite
always
tricky.
assume that was automatic, isn't it?
You can set your own rules for that stuff.
Oh, right. I always assumed it was just like once it got to a certain number of people, it automatically adds another imposter.
I think it does out of the box. Yeah, I think that's the default. But yeah, we were messing with it a bit. Try and figure, because you can have things like you can make the vision range quite short if you want, which is kind of funny. So like people walk in and out of fog, and that will affect the voice range and things like that, which is hilarious. Well, what made it even more fun, like one of the sabotage things the imposter can do is turn the lights off, which makes your vision circle like super small around you. But that also meant that you were deaf as well, which is really dumb, but quite funny because you just have people dipping in and out of your hearing range. Be like, oh, yep, oh. And also, so top tips: travel as a group. That makes it harder for the murderer to do anything. Don't ever stand on top of each other, because then the murderer will just get away with it. Because you can't see who did the murder. A body will just appear, and you don't know, like, okay, which one of us that was all stood on top of each other actually did it. Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's great. It's dumb fun. But you need the right conditions. That might be me, to be honest. In terms of games, I haven't really done a huge amount outside of Yakuza, which is, I guess, standard for me. As soon as I start playing that damn thing.
Yeah, that takes up some time, doesn't it?
Yeah. Still poking away at dirt, but I don't really have anything to say there. Oh, there was one other thing. Noam and I started playing Genesis Noir, because that came out, the full version of it, on Game Pass. Also available on other platforms, which you may remember me mentioning. It was the sort of space jazz detective mystery game.
Space jazz.
Space jazz. Yeah.
Best kind of jazz. It's like a Cowboy Bebop.
I mean, kind of. You're kind of like a noir, like hence the noir, but it is a detective story, but about, a jazz singer. But the whole game is presented in this like kooky art style, and everything's a bit mad, and it's like honestly, it's hard to know what the bloody hell's going on, but it's a trip. Like what you have to do in each individual screen kind of makes sense, and you can figure it out. It's effectively just point and click most of the time, but each section is different, and each section has its own rules and what you've got to try and figure out to make things progress. It's kind of fun to see just where it goes, even if you're not really fully understanding what the hell's going on. The hub is basically like the singer in bed with the bad guy, Golden Boy, shooting her effectively, but it's just got this massive like anime style like blast thing heading towards her, and you're doing stuff in investigating a galaxy of stuff that's inside the gun blast. Trying to increase the size of a black hole that will supposedly stop it. It's like I don't understand, but I dig it. I dig it, man.
Can you dig it? Yeah, I can dig it. Yeah.
Get everybody the stuff together.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
I mean, it would be made better if that was in there, but
Some people call me the space cowboy. Some people call me the walrus of love. Some people call me Maurice. Because I speak of the pumpetus of love.
I just realized.
Not sure what does pumpetus mean?
I don't know what pumpetus means. I just realized I screamed walrus of love, and it's like, oh no, actually, I was thinking of Lion of Love from that Eurovision film.
Oh yeah.
Lion of Love.
Eurovision coming soon. One more month.
Yeah.
Get hype. This gonna be good.
Get hype. I still haven't heard anything from it, which is good. Like anything.
Yeah. Keep yourself
fresh. But I've heard people saying it's a bit of a good year.
It better be after Corona, yeah. Let's get some campness on, some Euro trash.
I mean, I'm totally ready to be danced off.
Sweet, man.
Who thought that? I mean, a bit of me think, how did that ever get through? Like, I want to dance you off.
I want to dance you off, naturally. Right. Is that you then, Rob?
Yeah, why not? I'm done.
Cool. Right. Where am I? Well, I've got my PS4 plugged into my TV now, so I tried out some Wipeout Omega Collection. Looks pretty amazing. It looks awesome on the TV. I mean, this is just PS4 Pro, I guess, but I think it's HDR. I mean, certainly I read that was in HDR. It switches on the HDR mode or whatever, but yeah, it looks pretty amazing.
I can't remember if Omega Collection is HDR actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It might have a bit of it, but hey, you're getting that 4K 60 anyway.
Yeah, 4K 60 looks insane. Yeah, ridiculous. So played a bit of that. Yeah, but I haven't started my Breath of the Wild run. I need to finish off Link's Awakening. I'm on like the second to last dungeon, so I should probably just. It's a bit ridiculous playing that on a 4K TV. Like game by game. Yeah.
Probably won't take you long to finish that off from there, though, right? Those dungeons can't.
No, I think I'm pretty much at the end. I'm at like the Eagle's Tower up on the top. So, yeah, getting there. I've got most of the items.
Egg.
So. Yeah, getting to the egg. Yeah. But yeah, I think it will be. I think it will be back to Zelda, and I'm still playing a bit of Odyssey again. It's just that classic year of amazing Mario and Zelda games for the Switch. I'm in the tree, whatever it was. What's the forest area in Odyssey with the watering cans?
Steam guns.
with the crazy like 50s guitar music for some reason.
Oh right, yeah.
Ding 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 ding.
Almost beach music, isn't it?
Yeah, like surfy almost. Like the music in general, I found it a bit overwhelming the first time I played the game, and not very Mario-y. But now I'm well into it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not massively Mario-y in the traditional sense, but like for a globe-trotting adventure, it kind of fits. Yeah, and they're pretty baller tunes. So get the tank version going by taking over the tanks. It's cool. Oh my god, they do a there's a what the golf spoiler. Here we go. Oh no. There is a Mario themed bit, and there's a bit of music that's like with them singing like a Mario-esque what the golf thing in a cappella. It's pretty good. What the golf? What the golf? What the golf? I think that's pretty much me. I don't know what will be the next big thing that's new. That's the question. I guess I'll play some Res Infinite, but I haven't really got plans. I'm playing Red Dead, off and on as well. That looks insane on the TV. When's the inevitable re-release going to be? Or will there be the PS5 variant? Will there be a PS5 patch, or will they just not do that and try and make more money of their once in a generation game? I reckon they might. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. To be honest, if I got a new PC, which I might do when graphics cards become available and I save up some more, then I would probably buy Red Dead again. Totally, right? That would be, imagine that in widescreen 144 hertz. It's that 60 FPS upgrade that's the thing, right? Exactly. But I'm probably not going to buy a PS5 version just to get double the frame rate, unless they really do something. Even then, I don't know if it's a game that would actually be presented in. I don't know. It's a last gen game, but I don't know if Red Dead would be able to pull off 4K 60. I know the 1X version of Red Dead was actually 4K, right? That had native 4K going. So maybe So maybe it's possible on these consoles, but there's just something about. Maybe it's just how Red Dead looks, right? It just seems like pulling off 4K 60 on. Just seems. It's a miracle the way it runs, on a base PS4. I mean, it's insane. It just goes to show that, it's not about raw horsepower these days. Even in making the best graphics, it's about the amount of effort put in and the amount of money you can spend on years and years and years of development. And just the artistry involved in hiding where it's not. But what I don't get is how they coordinate that effort. It's hard enough coordinating 10 devs. How you that's what Cyberpunk clearly failed at, right? Is it wasn't fully coordinated and therefore it's full of bugs. How did they QA Red Dead? Insane. That's probably where half the budget lies. I don't know. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I know they have entire offices that are just QA for Rockstar. But yeah, amazing. They I watched the New Frame Plus video about did Red Dead need all that world building animation, right? Stuff, New Frame Plus is the animation channel that's made by the guy that used to be the voice from Extra Credits. Right. He doesn't do a video very often, but it's usually pretty decent. But anyway, is this did it need horse testicles that shrivel up in the cold and stuff? Exactly. Well, that was that was one of the elements. That's not really what he's focusing on. He's focusing on how when you're looking at items on every shelf, there's almost always for a lot of them, there's a custom animation for I need to put my arm in this specific place to pick them up, or even when he's just looting and he's picking stuff. Each item he individually picks up and puts away somewhere. It's crazy. It's insane. And how they sync up, putting the hide on the back of the horse. It's that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. or picking up the deer from the horse, and
it just feels so grounded. It's like, how the hell did they do it?
Exactly. It's all of that is like super difficult stuff to do, and he was like, does it need any of that? After a while, probably not. It it does.
Right.
You don't need to do that stuff, and in a general sense, most games don't need to go to that level.
No.
It's like, is it impressive as hell? Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The first few times you see it, his opinion was, yeah, it's impressive as hell, but like, unless you're really into the RP of it, it slows you down more than it.
Right, but in the case of Red Dead, it's not like they put loads of time into that and compromised on other areas of the game. You know what I mean? It's a massive game, and they can do it. They can afford to do it, and they did it, and it's a thing. In other games, like spending time on that would be a waste of time because you need to making a good game, right?
But even then, it's like, the time to the player is the other thing. It's not about just making that good, is it? It's like,
I see.
Is it time as a player?
Yeah, well, it's a kind of part of the experience, though, isn't it? With Red Dead, it's quite a slow one. Yeah,
to a point. Yeah, it's like they do. Yeah. They take shortcuts on. He was like, it's interesting to see where they did make compromises. Like, there aren't many in this game, but they do make them, such as like running over corpses for ammo. It's like you can run over corpses and pick up the ammo, but you still have to loot them all individually for money. And he's like, that's a weird split.
Yeah, but it kind of makes sense. My thing with the looting is there's a kind of if after a mission there's dead bodies everywhere, you can spend your time looting them, but sort of arbitrarily at some point the law get interested or you get as wanted, which is like weird. Yeah. I don't know.
Like some missions that's really telegraphed, which is fine. I don't mind that. It's like, come on, we gotta go.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like, but there are others where it's not, and it's like, oh, right, okay, I've got to go apparently.
Because you don't, unlike in GTA, you don't get wanted very often in Red Dead. It's not a mechanic that's like massively used, or in Red Dead 2.
Right. Yeah.
It's not lose the cops isn't really a thing in Red Dead 2, and even in GTA 5 that happened quite a few times.
I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it does happen, but it's pretty. And it's quite rare. I guess it doesn't happen in missions necessarily. It kind of happens as a, you ballsed up kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much.
And I do wish that was less annoying though. When you get it in Red Dead, it's kind of a problem.
It was a problem in GTA 5 because it's you have to get out of their zone or whatever, and then don't let me into my zone. Yeah.
I think that's a podcast.
It's a podcast. Thank you for joining us. And we'll have some content on the YouTube. I still haven't got my Wi-Fi card installed, so I don't know if we'll be doing Deus Ex next week, but maybe we'll. I did get one, so okay. I'll have to install it. But we'll have some Panzer Dragoon up at some point, I'm sure. And you can watch our Deus Ex series, which is in train, as they say. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Saladcast. Goodbye.
In train? What do you mean by that? What's in train?
It's a phrase that you'd think I would know, being called train, but I haven't really used it much. It's in French. They say en train, but apparently it's used in English as well, and it means in progress.
Okay. I don't think I've ever heard it used like that before.
Train. Yeah.
In train.
Oh, and you can say like that's in train if it's like being taken care of.
Okay. Yeah. Weird. In train. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I
don't use it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right to me. Does that mean this podcast is about to become off train?
Yeah, this is no longer in train. This is
derailed.
Derailed. The end.
Goodbye.